Hello there,
Hi,
and welcome to our channel. This is Alice,
and this is Kai.
and today we're going to be taking a look at drive-in movie theatres, life in America. The video was suggested or recommended by Scramble from the comments, so thank you very much for that. So for today's video, it's obviously about
Drive-in cinema.
But what is it about?
Yeah.
Based on the picture I saw and briefly, just testing out volume, it looks kind of a bit historical. So maybe we'll get the background of it. I don't know.
Okay, how it all started?
Maybe. In the UK, I've never been to a drive-in theatre. Alice assures me that we have them.
Yes, I've not been to one here, but I have been to one in Romania.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite fun.
Cool. Well,
maybe you stay in your car, you see the big picture through your window, and you listen to the sound through your audio system.
Well, one thing I do notice about it, or not notice, but one thing I like, so I've seen it before in some movies. They park up, they're all in a car, and more often than not, they start getting it on in the back or something. Like, it's just from the movie. Maybe I'm watching the wrong movie.
Maybe you're watching the
Hold
wrong
on.
film.
Let's get on with this. Come on.
Oh dear.
Recollection Road. So it's definitely going to be something historical, I think.
On June 6th, 1933, people parked their cars on the grounds of Park-In Theaters, the first ever drive-in movie theater located in Camden, New Jersey.
So this is the first ever.
The cost of a movie was just 25 cents per car and 25 cents per person, with no group paying more than $1. The first movie that premiered at the Park-In was a British comedy called Wives Beware.
Ah. Can't say I've ever heard of it.
Park-In Theaters was the brainchild of Richard Hollingshead, a sales manager at his father's auto parts company. Inspired by his mother's struggle to comfortably sit in the wooden movie theater seats, he came up with the idea of an open-air theater where people could watch movies in the comfort of their own cars.
I like the idea of it. I like the idea of it, to be honest.
Especially if the seats were
Hollingshead
wooden.
began experimenting with showing movies in the driveway of his home. He experimented with different projection and sound techniques, mounting a Kodak projector on the hood of his car, pinning a screen to some trees, and placing a radio behind the screen for sound. He tried several setup variations before he found what he thought was the right configuration of projector, screen, sound, and spacing between cars. He then applied for and was granted a patent for a drive-in theater in May 1933. Shortly after, in June of 1933, he opened his first drive-in called Park-In Theaters. His slogan for his drive-in theater was, "The whole family is welcome, regardless of how noisy the children are." Hollingshead never made much of a profit with his drive-in, and sold it several years later to a new owner who moved it to another location. Regardless of his failure to make a profit, the second drive-in to open was Shankweiler's, started a year later in Orfields, Pennsylvania. This drive-in is actually still open today.
It looks cool, doesn't it? I can imagine back then it was quite
By
a big thing
1940,
as well.
there were over 20 drive-ins that had opened across the United States. Eventually, Hollingshead's patent was ruled invalid in 1950, and therefore anyone could open a drive-in theater without having to pay royalties to Hollingshead for his patent.
I wonder why.
I see. Yeah, it's curious how that happened. How do you guys know? Like, what made it invalid? Started out as someone's idea to help their mum, effectively, because she couldn't sit in the stalls. 10 years later became quite a big thing. Maybe it goes to show that initially an idea until it gets a bit more widespread and people hear about it, it obviously doesn't flourish. And that's what he found when he first opened the first one, didn't he? It wasn't really making profit.
It was quite a local thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and people aren't necessarily going to travel all that way because they don't know about it. But what, 8 to 10 years later, there's now 20 or 25, they said, didn't they?
Yeah, I can't remember, but
pretty big.
And what I was thinking is obviously all inventions come out of necessity as well, or most of them. So he came up with something quite cool.
But I wonder if the pattern was also holding people back from making their own, and obviously once that got invalidated, then boom.
Yeah.
It was, open season sort of thing.
Open season.
No, I think I would actually like to go to
drive-in theaters weren't just for cars. In 1948, the first fly-in drive-in theater was created in New Jersey. The outdoor theater had room for 25 airplanes and 500 cars. Airplanes landed in an airfield next to the New Jersey fly-in drive-in and would taxi over to a viewing spot in the back row.
Okay, that one I've not heard of.
That's kind of random, isn't it? Like, that's quite interesting, but I guess it's somewhat relevant back then.
Drive-in theater numbers exploded and peaked in the late 1950s and early 1960s. During this time, which is considered the golden age of drive-ins, there were over 4,000 drive-in theaters across the United States.
Thinking about it, a movie where I've probably seen a drive-in was probably like Grease or something like that. I don't know if it's Grease specifically, but that sort of era of like that setting, I don't know what.
Oh, that's definitely in
60s, 70s, something like that?
theaters, I think.
I think so, yeah.
They tend to show some iconic films, some classics, not just like everything that's popular now.
Well, I don't mean that they're obviously showing Grease, but what I meant is in the film Grease, I'm sure I've seen a drive-in cinema.
Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry.
You're going off on a tangent, you are. Let's continue.
What's happening there? Is he giving them?
They maintained popularity.
Let's have it. Maybe. Oh, yeah, maybe that's how they listen. So each one has their own individual bit that they can have.
There's another wire going to the other car on the left.
I think that might be how they listen to it, because I think in more modern ones, you tune your radio into it now, but obviously back in the day, they didn't have that technology.
They maintained popularity as both a space for families to spend time with each other, as well as an affordable date night option. Drive-ins offered much more flexibility than indoor theaters, and that was appealing to families.
Probably a bit more affordable.
For sound, portable speakers were provided to moviegoers.
Here we go.
Attendees would simply park next to a speaker stand and clip one onto the inside of their car window.
That's pretty cool.
The smallest drive-ins had spots for fewer than 50 cars, while the all-weather drive-in in Long Island, New York could accommodate 2,500 cars. It featured a full-service restaurant, a playground, and a shuttle to carry patrons around the huge lot.
Okay, so you go first.
I was going to say, I always find this a little bit difficult to see the actual film. Yes, the sound is the same because you've got your speaker box or whatever. But how do you see the film?
Well, I feel like if you're at the back, obviously you're definitely... Yeah, sorry guys, I'm like pointing here, but yeah, if you're at the back of that thing, I think it's going to be like that big, it's going to be tiny.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely tiny.
But also, so you've got the full-blown restaurant in the middle there, haven't you?
And there's cars in front of it.
Those poor buggers behind it. I mean, obviously, yes, it's elevated, but I don't think it's... Well,
I don't think it's that elevated.
Do you think you'd be able to, I think if you're immediately behind it, you would struggle. Maybe the parking, like, just immediately behind it is for the restaurant. So maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe. I don't know. But
I love the idea of it, though. It's a really cool... I hope it's still widespread in America, and not just kind of like a little pocket thing now that everyone's grown out of. Because I like the idea of this still being around, you know?
Yeah, it's around.
And if we go to America and we do have access to this, we should definitely go and watch a drive-in movie just for, you know.
We need to rent a car for that first.
Yeah, we'll hire a Mustang. We'll do
just for that.
Exactly.
The Golden Age only lasted a couple decades, and in the 1970s, the number of drive-ins began to decline rapidly for a number of reasons. The rising price of real estate, especially in suburban areas, combined with the growing numbers of walk-in theaters and the rise of video rentals, curbed the growth of the drive-in industry. Indoor theaters were also more flexible about scheduling and could show one film 5 or 6 times a day instead of only at night.
Okay, projector.
Drive-ins were an icon of American culture and a typical weekend destination. Even though drive-ins are not nearly as popular as they used to be, there are still drive-ins in business throughout the country.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Modern drive-ins vary, but many show current films as well as older classics. A lot of them also plan double features and special event themes like horror movies or past summer blockbusters.
No thank you to the horror movies. Or just keep pressing the lock button.
Yeah, that's it, on the car. Keep the doors locked.
Although times have changed since the first drive-in movie theater was opened, the feeling you get watching a movie under the stars is still as magical and affordable as ever. If, of course, you have a drive-in theater close by.
Oh, that was quite a nice video, actually.
Yeah, I didn't want it to finish.
No, it was really lovely, actually. Once again, thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, I really liked that video. It was. We've obviously seen and touched on. Well, I feel like we've touched on some outdoor cinemas before, but never really in depth. It's a shame that they're like the decline of, well, they've declined. But I can kind of understand why, because obviously if you can only do 1 or 2 shows because it's only an evening thing, naturally, you know, projectors are not going to work in the day, and even if you had a screen, you're going to get sun glare and everything, which is going to be problematic, isn't it?
You also need a lot more space.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? You know, with real estate and whatnot being expensive, you need a lot of land mass for this sort of stuff. So I guess maybe it's not very feasible.
Yeah.
But I love the novelty of it, though. You know, like
it's
I've definitely seen it in a few movies.
Cool thing to do. It's a nice experience.
Yes.
We'll definitely give it a go one day.
It looked really good in the pickup, with the pickup back up and back. You know, that looks.
Yeah, we don't have a pickup.
We don't. We can hire one.
Again,
anti-pillows, make it comfy. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks lovely, doesn't it? I thoroughly enjoyed that video.
Yeah, it's good.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Bye.